So without wasting any time, let's kick things off with the season finale of Vaser Claw, right? So as you guys know, I've been pretty much I pretty much covered the first three episodes of this series here. This, of course, is a spin-off of the highly popular web series Magnolia, right? Whose final episode dropped earlier this year, right? At the beginning of this year, actually, right? So what we were treated to throughout this miniseries, right? I'll talk about the whole miniseries format in a bit, right? Is this character of Visa Claw, right? He is pretty much an alien, right? An extraterrestrial, if you want to call it that, right? So it's not really centered on Earth, even though we have an Earthling involved in it. That would be Keith. That is this freshwater Yankee, or Trini, as I call him, a freshwater Trini, who more or less kind of becomes the unlikely psychic to for Visa's journey, right? And essentially, what this journey involves is this individual called Excalibur. It's this random dude. He was involved. Well, he actually served under the same general that Visa served under, and there was some betrayal involved, and Visa's team got wiped out by this guy here. So he finds out in the first episode that, hey, Excalibur is alive and he's on this planet called Condor, right? And even though his girlfriend, Princess Laura, right, is like, you know what, I want to come with you. He's like, no, 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 you should stay here and handle your scene and let me go and handle my thing, right? She eventually runs into him in the third episode and pretty much tells him, you've been going the wrong way, which in retrospect was a big red flag there, like in terms of the story. But you don't really pick up on it until this final episode here, right? So yeah, essentially in this episode they find their way they find their way to the right path now, and they find this particular house, this abandoned house, sorry. And this is where Excalibur, who is played by Adrian Sammy, he is there, right? And he's all like tough and badass. And yes, there's a fairly decent fight, I must say, between Visa and Excalibur, right? But in the process, Excalibur just more or less gives him, some information, pretty much tells him what really went down, right? And essentially, what it all boils down to is just the idea of this General Lamos, who who they both served under. Well, to extent Excalibur sued under him, but really Visa, right, is still alive, right? And that is like the big, bombshell in this episode here, right? So just to get the good out of the way, right? In terms of pacing, this is actually really, really solid. You really do get a sense of finality here. You know what I mean? It's like, this is what it all boiled down to, right? I remember criticizing the last episode for still kind of leaving us there in the shadows, like what's going to happen next and what's really good going down. Here you really get a sense of what is happening and what is going to happen, right, in more ways than one. I actually thought that Adrian Sammy, right, who plays Excalibur, for what he's given, yeah, he was pretty decent as this villain, right, as this just tough bad guy, right. And again, the duel that they had was pretty solid as well, right. There's some really nifty visual effects. I'm not gonna say what they are, but there's one in particular which is just basically like a costume change that really like surprised me. But I was like, what? Okay, you know what I mean. And some really dope VFX shots here or there as well too, right. Cinematography still solid. Music is stellar as usual. And acting for what it is decent as well, right? Now, in terms of the story itself, right? In terms of like the payoff itself, right? I would say in the case of Visa himself, right? Because remember his whole thing was, all right, Excalibur, I thought was dead, but you tell him he's alive and now he's here. I want to know the truth, and battle ensues, right? So his story, his arc, if you will, pretty much wraps up, right? And I wouldn't say where how Keith and Laura are involved. You have to see that for yourself, right? But in terms of Queen Lucinda, right? While in her case it was just more about investigating this whole thing, about this idea, pretty much about General Lamos possibly being alive and whatnot, and certain files will be kept secret, kept hidden, and in relation to Excalibur. So there's a lot of chicanery going on behind the scenes. It's just more or less her, more or less kind of figuring out, oh, this is really what's going on, and she kind of finds it out near the end, right? And then it pretty much ends with her kind of ordering this, not so much a strike, but pretty much just letting Capernaum know that, hey, this person is bad news. Keep an eye out for this person, right? So if I do have a gripe with this episode here, right, I felt it was in that particular moment, which kind of happens before the end credits, right? I'll talk about the post-credit scene afterwards, right? Um, how best to describe it? It's for me. I just kind of felt it was more telling and not showing, right?
Right.
Even though there are stuff being shown. Now, I can imagine, right? Like in terms of the, in terms of like Ansel's head, right? Like where he's coming from in terms of like wanting to get the story out there, right? To him, it may seem like, all right, this is a big moment, this is a crucial moment, and you, the viewer who is watching this, should be excited the way I am, should be thrilled, should be
Right, but
concerned
it
and
didn't
whatnot, right?
translate well. Yeah,
Yeah, but there was a little problem with the transition because I know,
yeah,
like in his
that's
head,
happened enough times.
it does happen. It does happen, right? I know that he, like, deep down, he knows, all right, this is what's going to happen next, right? But I felt like, for me as a viewer, I still was kind of kept in the shadows, right? And while there was a pretty cool looking montage to kind of emphasize how important it is, all I'm really seeing here is just visuals. I'm just seeing images, but like I just like I just need more clarification and explanation as to what these visuals were about, right? Yes, you could make the excuse that all right, in the next spin-off or in the next whatever, they'll explain these things, right? But for the viewer, especially at this point here, they just don't want to feel lost, right? So you're just seeing that as like, all right, I want to feel thrilled, but it's like, I don't know. Like, you need to just give me like a little bit more information. I especially felt we could have gotten that in terms of General Lamos himself, right? Because I was expecting some sort of flashback or some sort of like scene involving him, and just to establish maybe he's alive or maybe he's not. Something along that line where we see him or somebody close him, some sort of visual hint at it, right? But we don't really see that. It's just okay, big attack, something big's gonna happen, and I'm just there like, all right, all right, all right, and you just kind of build new stakes and it just kind of stops and then it goes into the credits, right? And I felt that was just like a missed opportunity there, man, right? So in a nutshell, what kind of felt like it, and I think one of the main reasons for this too is because, and sorry to say this, because of the source material or lack thereof, right?
Right.
Because yes, this is
it didn't feel as planned out as it could have been.
in a way, right? But what I mean is, right? So you see, when it comes to like MCU stuff, right? When they come with their cliffhangers, right? It's like to the untrained eye now, you're seeing stuff like a name might be mentioned or an image might be mentioned, right? And then the first thing they're gonna do is just go on Google and be like, all right, what's this?
Right.
What this shot means and whatnot, right? And then they might tell you, oh, this is a relation to this comic or that comic or that comic, right? You're like, oh, okay, right? And
Right.
you become more intrigued, right? Here, because there isn't an existing comic for this world here, right? With the exception of a character whose name is brought up. I'm not gonna say who, right? It's kind of hard for me to kind of be like, okay, I feel like I should know what is going to happen, but I don't know. And even if I don't know, there's no way for me to find out unless this next episode or next season or next show comes out, right? Then that's the problem, right? But I will give Ansel credit for at least doing some considerable world building here, right? Okay, you could tell with these other spin-off shows, which I'll get to. One of them I'll get to with the post-credit scene. You could tell that there is more to the story. That there's going to be more story that will be told from this point on. But I just felt with the way how the stakes were raised, and it's just like, all right, I want to know, but there's no way for me to know, and I wouldn't know unless this next thing comes out. I felt like we could have gotten some information, at least first, to be like, oh, okay, I'll put a note on this, I'll put a pin on this, and all right, in the next season or whatever, that will be explained, right? So now to get to the post-credit scene. So it does lead to it is a setup basically for another spin-off show, right? I'm not gonna say which character, right? But it is a character who appears in this show, right? And in Magnolia. That's like the biggest hint I could get, right? That's the biggest clue, sorry, right? And they do hint at and they do suggest something really big, actually, in my opinion. It's subtle, but it's what it implies though that really had me like really excited, right? So I just hope that with that spin-off they're gonna kind of explain what happened in that montage, that pre end credit montage that takes place, right? And lastly, in terms of the format itself, I really had to talk about the format itself, right? Um, I actually recapped this whole. I actually like watched this whole miniseries, right? Just watch it play out from episode 1 to 4, right? And I would suggest for those who were following up on it and maybe need like a little refresher, or people who go in blind, to do so, right? Um, Not to say that the miniseries format is bad, but like like in terms of just time, in terms of runtime, this is about an hour long, like an hour and change, basically, right? Yeah, and for me personally, I think that it could have
Wait, the
just been
total runtime is
total
more about that?
runtime, yeah,
Really?
roughly about that.
That is a little longer than that.
Yeah. So for me personally, I just felt like this could have just simply been a special, like just
Right.
hour
So
long
just
plus
cut it down,
special.
yeah. Cut it
Yeah.
down a little more. And, yeah, okay.
Right. Exactly. It could have just been that, right? And because I felt in terms of it being a mini series, especially with like those with the second and third episodes, yeah, they could have been longer. There could have been more stuff. There could have been more fleshing out of the story there, right? So when you just watch this whole thing from episode 1 to 4, yeah, it just feels like an hour long plus special, right? Which is fine, right? But given the fact that this is a mini series now, especially this is where I have to talk about, yeah, just had to mention again, episode 2 and 3. Those episodes is where sorry, we could have gotten more fleshing out of that narrative, and yeah, then you would have gotten something a little bit more stronger in terms of the narrative, right? But I understand in terms of time and budget and this and that and the third, right? But yeah, I just felt like with those two episodes in the middle of the year, we could have gotten more, right? But with that being said, Vaser Claw still works and still delivers, and it still stands as really the most ambitious project in this Phil Ventures universe, right? It doesn't entirely stick the landing though, and I just blame that in terms of the extra world building. Well, sorry, not the
Right.
extra world building, but just the possible, well, just the implications of what will happen next. But again, because we're not familiar with the source material at all, it's just like we just kind of left there in the shadows, like, all right, what's going on? You know what I mean? It will leave you as a viewer excited and intrigued, right? But it's just like, I want to know more, right? But in the world that we live in now, when you get when you get cliffhangers and stingers and whatnot, first thing you want to do is go online and read up and see what happens next and what it means and all that kind of stuff, right? But again, because there is no source material available, you just kind of have to wait until this next show or whatever comes out, right? So yeah, that so I just hope that with this next special, I'm not sure if it's going to be a miniseries, but this next special, at least the questions that are left unanswered here will be explained and whatnot, and more, and there will be a greater effort in terms of just building the world. And lastly, before I get to rating, um putting us into the world itself, like just making us understand more about this world and the rules and the characters and whatnot. I forgot to mention there actually are a couple of characters who do show up in this series here, this mini series here, that I felt could have gotten a little bit more fleshing out of character. Case in point, Akuna. Like, she just kind of shows up, she does a thing, and then we literally don't see her again. And I felt that was like that just again that was just like a missed opportunity there. Like, we really could have gotten to see more about her. We just know that she was just exiled during the war. That's all we know. But I
Right.
just felt like, especially in this last episode, like, yeah, just kind of explain that to me, or show me, or tell me at least why she's in this, why she's on Condor in the first place, right? Now you can tell me, "Oh, well, in the next season or whatever it is, you'll explain that." But remember, people are going in blind and don't know about this world. So when you drop a character, you kind of have to explain what the character is there. It's like it's just like simple storytelling. It's not like, all right, I will just go on Google and see
I mean,
what
they,
it
they,
means.
they didn't
It's
they didn't
like
shoot
that,
it in such a way where it's like, oh well, it could have easily be like some kind of foreshadowing or mystery stuff. You could, that's fine. You could do that. I don't
I
know.
Yeah, you're right, right. But I don't know. Like, I
I don't know.
just a
I don't
man
know.
who
I
like
don't know like the
closure,
conceits
so
of how they're supposed to play out. To be fair,
right. I just a man, I like closure in my story. So when a character show up and then they hint that the character may come back, I want to know if the character coming back. I just want to know for myself. All right, this character is really coming back, right? Not maybe or maybe not. It's just how I think, right? But yeah, as a whole though, yeah, I mean this mini series as a whole worked, right? I think in retrospect it could have just been a simple special, just like an hour long plus special. You could call it a movie. Just throwing a little suggestion here, in the near future. Um, but yeah, for what it is, this kind of just expands the world, the Vil Ventures universe even more. I know there's a lot more ground to cover here. So the little nitpicks that I mentioned here, I do hope that with these subsequent shows, at least they will be rectified, and the world itself will be filled out and expanded and explained to the point that yeah, it will be a lot easier now for when the major story arcs and shows come out. Then it's like we know everything we need to know, and we just jump right in, right, a la Avengers and shows of that matter, right? So rating wise, in terms of this show here, in terms of Vaser Claw the miniseries as is, I'm going with a decent 3.5 out of 5, man. I say that it is worth checking out. It is available on the GT, well, the official GT Caribbean website, well, network website. Basically, you can check those 4 episodes out there. Um, I know, feel free to let me know, in the comment section, especially when I post this up on YouTube, what you thought about this series here. Did it work for you? Did you appreciate or like the characters? Who's your favorite character in all of this? You know what I mean? What was your favorite moment, stuff like that? And what do you think? What are you looking forward to in terms of what we're gonna get in these future shows and spin-offs and whatnot, right? And yeah, I mean, again, Ansel is just doing his thing. So, shout out to Ansel and his team. I know they had a blast working on this. I know they put a lot of time and effort into this, and it shows. And I just want to see that momentum just keep going, and just just equality and just the content and just everything just step up with each and every show that they drop, man. The other rule, man, I mean, the ball is rolling. They had a rule for it to for the momentum to pick up anyway, right? So yeah, I mean, I have nothing but praise for these guys for doing what they're doing, man. So yeah, keep it up. Can't wait for the next spin-off show. I'm not gonna say what it is. You have to watch that final episode to see for yourself. And whatever else Ansel and his team are going to be putting out, yeah, you could guarantee your boy here is going to be looking out for that, man. So yeah, keep up the great work, man.